You can change your oil exactly when the dashboard tells you to, pay for the right oil, and still be doing something that quietly kills your engine before it ever sees 100,000 miles. The mistakes that actually take an engine out don't leave a puddle. They don't turn a light on. Nothing warns you at all, right up until something expensive stops. One is explained wrong in nearly every video on this subject. One isn't yours to make. The people changing your oil make it for you. And the number one mistake has nothing to do with your hands or your oil. At the end, a habit from a trade school 40 years ago that nobody has put in a video since. Let's start with the one that usually announces itself before you've even left your driveway. The double gasket. This is the one every other video saves for last, and it deserves the attention. The old filter comes off, its rubber ring stays stuck flat to the engine, the new filter goes on top, and two seals sit where one belongs. Pressure comes up, 3 or 4 quarts leave. One man watched it take his wife's Hyundai at 12,000 miles. So why is it 11th? Because it tells you right away. Oil on the concrete, a light on the dash, all of it before you're off your own street. The ones that kill an engine at 90,000 never do that, and one of them gets explained wrong in almost every video on this subject. Number 10. The dry seal. That rubber ring hates going on dry. Tighten it dry and it drags, twists, sometimes tears, and a torn seal weeps the moment things heat up. Worse, a dry gasket glues itself to the engine. That's exactly how it stays behind next spring and ends up stacked under the new one. Wet a finger in clean oil, wipe the rubber ring, and wipe the spot on the engine it screws onto while you're down there. One mechanic put it plainly: no point oiling the seal if you leave the old gunk on the spot it has to press against. 2 seconds, and it prevents 2 different leaks, one of them a year away. Number 9. The washer nobody replaces. The most argued about comment on this whole topic came from a man doing his own oil for 55 years. Never changed a drain bolt washer, never had a leak, never stripped a thread. Over 1,000 people agreed with him. Another owner ran a 2010 Accord the same way. 9 changes, no trouble. On the 10th, it seeped, so he leaned on it. Next time the plug came out, the threads came with it. That's the argument in 2 stories. It's a crush washer. It crushes once. Reuse it and it keeps sealing right until the day it doesn't. And when that day comes, the first thing everybody does is crank it tighter. A bag costs a few dollars. Number 8. Hand tight or tighter. A retired lifelong mechanic typed his answer in capitals. You absolutely need to snug the filter past hand tight. He's watched them back off and dump. He's arguing with a Corvette owner whose dealer hand tightened one that emptied 2 quarts into the customer pickup lane. And with a man who had to pay somebody to take off the filter he'd cranked on himself. They told him it was the worst one they'd ever seen. Both sides have a ruined engine in their story, so do the thing they'd both agree on. Spin it on until the rubber touches the engine. Mark the end with a marker. 3/4 of a turn further by hand. A wrench comes out to remove a filter, never to fit one. Number 7. Pulling the plug too early. Warm oil versus cold oil gets argued to death, and the gap is smaller than the internet says. Time is what actually matters, and almost nobody gives it any. The last of it comes out slowly, in drips, and those drips are the dirtiest oil in there. Even when you do it right, a good bit of the old oil never leaves. It mixes straight into the fresh stuff you just paid for. Rush the final minutes, and you make that share bigger. One owner put it best: he won't start the job unless he's got half an hour to let it finish on its own. Which is also why he's never used a 10-minute oil change place. Everything so far leaves evidence: a puddle, a stripped bolt, a filter nobody can get off next spring. From here down, nothing leaks, nothing lights up, and nothing tells you a thing until the engine's older than the odometer says. Number 6. Too much oil. Here's the one nearly every video on this subject gets wrong. They'll tell you extra oil raises your pressure and blows the seals out. It doesn't work that way, and plenty of you already know it because that correction sits near the top of the comments under those videos. More oil in the pan doesn't make more pressure. The pump only cares whether the pickup's covered. What actually happens is uglier. Put in enough extra, and the spinning crankshaft starts hitting the top of the oil and whipping it. It beats air into it. You get foam, and foam won't carry a bearing. The dipstick reads full while the bearings ride on froth. That extra oil has to go somewhere. Some of it gets pulled through the engine's breathing system and into the intake and eventually onto the catalytic converter. That's a $2,000 part and it dies quietly over years. And this one gets made for you constantly. One owner checked after a dealer service and found it 1.5 quarts over. Pour slowly, stop short of the line, let it settle, then top up. Number 5. The first 10 seconds. You've heard the advice, idle 30 to 60 seconds before you drive. The most upvoted objection to it is also true. If your oil needs a full minute to make pressure, you don't have an idling problem, you have a pump problem. The risky moment is shorter than that, and it happens sooner. A new filter goes on empty, and for a second or two the engine runs while the pump is still filling it. That's the whole pre-fill fight, and it's simpler than people make it. Filter stands upright, fill it 3/4. Filter mounts sideways or hangs upside down, which covers most modern engines. You can't, and you don't need to. Every pre-fill argument in every comment section is two people with different engines talking past each other. There's a better move that works on both. Don't let it fire at all. Pull the fuel pump fuse, or hold the accelerator flat, which puts a lot of late model cars into a mode where they'll crank without lighting off. Crank until the oil pressure light goes out, put it back, then start it. The oil's waiting up there already. That light is the only warning on your dash genuinely watching your oil. It isn't the one you trust. Number 4. The check almost nobody does. Pouring in the right amount and walking away is how people end up driving underfilled for a year without a clue. The new filter takes a cut of what you poured. Depending on the engine, that's a splash to a full quart, and it takes it after you've already read the stick and felt good. Run it a minute, shut it off, let it drain back, read it again. That second number is the true one. While it idles, get your eyes under the car. A fresh change is when a leak is likeliest to show, and finding a drip while you're standing right there beats finding it as a warning light in traffic. 2 minutes. It's the net under everything from 11 down to 5. All of that assumed your hands were on the wrench. For most people watching, they weren't. If this is worth something to you, subscribing puts it in front of more people who still do their own. Now, the 3 you can't make. Number 3, trusting the invoice. You can do all 8 of those perfectly and still lose the engine, because most oil changes in this country are done by somebody you'll never meet. In June, an investigative team in Chicago gathered owners with the same complaint against local shops. One filter was the wrong size and came apart inside the engine. Another driver made one block before the car wouldn't start again. One settled for $7,000. Dealerships aren't clean either. That 1.5 quart overfill was a dealer. So was the filter an owner found torqued on dry so hard it took a foot of leverage to break loose. Drain plugs are going back in with impact guns. And here's what makes it structural. You sit in the waiting room. You're not allowed in the bay. You never see the work you're paying for. So check it in their parking lot before you drive off. Pull the stick, read the level, read the color, then crouch and look underneath. 20 seconds on their property beats any promise they'll make you afterward. Number 2. Trusting the interval. The most agreed with thing anybody has said about oil changes on YouTube is that none of this matters. It came from a man with 500 of them behind him, and his verdict was blunt. Don't warm it, don't pre-fill anything, don't buy expensive oil, change it often, and stop worrying. Nearly 1,000 people agreed. And he's mostly right. Fresh oil done often beats perfect oil done rarely every time. But there's a gap in it, and the gap isn't the interval he picked, it's the one printed for you. General Motors caps its own system at 7,500 miles or 1 year, whichever lands first. European owners report 10,000 and up. One Mini owner said the number quoted in Britain was 18,000, and he ignores it outright. Those figures describe an average driver in average conditions, short trips where the oil never gets hot enough to boil the moisture out, towing, dust, stop and go. That's severe service, and most people live in it without being told. Which leaves one question: who decides when your interval's up? It isn't you, and it isn't your oil. Number 1. Trusting the light. The percentage on your dash has never once looked at your oil. There's no sensor down there sampling anything. It's software, counting engine revolutions, temperatures, and elapsed time through a formula calibrated years before your car was built. General Motors says so in its own documentation. There is no oil condition sensor. It can't read viscosity. It can't read contamination. It can't tell synthetic from vegetable oil, and it doesn't measure level. Which gives you the sentence that should end this list. You can be looking at 50% oil life on that screen with nothing on the dipstick at all. Then there's what happened to the dipstick itself. Mercedes and BMW replaced it with an electronic reading on the display. Audi went the same way, along with some Ford, Cadillac, Lincoln, Chevrolet, Chrysler, and Mazda models. The one instrument you could verify with your own hands, gone. Replaced by the same kind of number that's already been shown not to look. So reset it. That part's real, it needs to know a change happened. Then treat what it shows you as a reminder, and check the oil yourself the way you always did. And the last one, from a trade school 40 years ago. Before you pull the drain plug, take the oil filler cap off the top of the engine. That's the whole thing. Cracking the top open lets air push down behind the oil instead of the oil fighting a partial vacuum on the way out. The stream runs harder, finishes sooner, and more of the old oil actually leaves. The man who shared it learned it in trade school in the 80s and says he's never heard anybody mention it since. It costs nothing, takes 10 seconds, and quietly fixes the mistake sitting at number 7. 11 mistakes, ranked by how quietly they work. The loud ones cost you a Saturday. The silent ones cost you the last 40,000 miles of an engine you thought you were looking after. Here's what I want in the comments. Not which one you'd make, because most of you wouldn't make any of them. Tell me which one a shop made on your car and what it cost you. That list is worth more than this video. Next time, I'm cutting 3 oil filters open on the bench to see what $4 buys you against 19. Some of what's inside the cheap one is cardboard.